Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Creating Wealth and Wellness podcasts with me, Tara Missildine, and my friend, Amanda Kingsley. We are here to take you on a journey today where freedom is cultivated through personal development, where women connect to fuel their futures, and where wealth is created as a byproduct of being well. Thanks again for joining us today. I'm excited to talk about this topic, which is how do we make our partners feel important? And I'm sure that this is going to take lots of different directions in this episode. But Amanda, what are you grateful for today?
Grateful for today. Hello, everybody. Oh dear. Wow, I feel totally stuck on gratitude, which is ridiculous. There's so many things in every moment. But I am looking at on my desk a Biozen sticker because so I use these stickers and I will link to them, but I use these stickers on my cell phone and I have them on my kid's cell phone, my husband's cell phone. And I just feel like we don't know the extent of the damage that's coming from all these devices we use. But in the US, we're so far behind. And for years and years and years, I've had some sort of device on my phone that helps manage those waves so they're less damaging to me and my family. And so, yeah, it's one of those things that I have every day all the time and forget that I'm so grateful to have. So there you
go. Cool. My gratitude is for the Instant Pot. I don't know if I've mentioned this already as a gratitude in one of the last 50 episodes. And if I haven't, then I am shocked because I love this thing. It was an anniversary gift last year. And it's a lifesaver. I love it. I'm a little bit obsessed. It seems like people become kind of devotional to these things once they get them. But I absolutely love mine. So you can link to that too in the show notes. If anybody doesn't know what it is, yeah, it's sort of like a hybrid between a slow cooker and a crock pot and a pressure cooker.
And can you link to some of your favorite recipe sites? Because I actually have one. I love it when I use it, but I don't consistently use it. And I could really use some solid recipe sites.
I don't have any recipe sites. I usually just I YouTube Instant Pot. And then awesome recipes come up in there.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I do too. I just forget to do it. So, all right, I'm cooking with the Instant Pot tonight.
In the meantime, go through the recipe book that comes with it. They're almost all really good. Okay, so cool. So we are going to talk about making our partners making our partners feel important. That was not Freudian, I promise.
That was fabulous.
Okay. So,
question of the day: do you fart in front of your partner?
Makes him feel so special. Well, interestingly enough, he does do that in front of me, and I feel like he thinks it's some kind of like a rite of passage. Like you're my partner, so you get to have this pleasure.
That is like, it's Europe. I mean, there's probably a lot of cultures where it's like a sign of it's like a compliment to burp after meals, like there you go. It's a true test of your marriage. So I guess
oh my gosh, for the first several years of our marriage, I would shoot him the look of death every time that he would do that in front of me. So much so that for years, like 5 years after we've been married, and he never stopped. It was always, it didn't matter. I would be like, hi. It was gross me out so bad in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then so much so that even like now, 13 years later, whenever he does it in front of me, he'll look at me like with this like look that I'm about to freak out. And I haven't freaked out for 8 years or something.
That's incredible. And I love that this is part of how he makes you feel special.
I'm not sure if it is or not. It's conjecture. The evidence seems to prove it. So how do we make our partners, and putting all the jest aside, for women like us, and I'm sure like many of our listeners, we are so driven in our own lives and to do our own things. And many of us have chosen partners that afford us a lot of independence And we've talked about that many times on this podcast. But how do we make them, like, when we are partnered like that? And this episode comes at an interesting time because just days ago, I celebrated my 13th wedding anniversary. And a couple of days before that, Amanda celebrated her 15th, right? 15th anniversary?
15th, yep.
So like we both have a little bit of longevity in the practice of making our partners feel important. And also probably windows of time where we weren't doing that intentionally enough. I know that's true for me. So what do we do that makes sure that that partnership is nourished and lasting the way that we have both committed to with these, over a decade long partnerships?
Yeah, I mean, we've been together over 20 years.
Amazing.
And so I will link to my blog post because on our 15th anniversary, I wrote 15 things I've learned from my marriage. But one of those things, all of those things are ways I make him feel special. But one in particular stands out, and it is texting. How ridiculous is that? But I talk more about that in the blog post, but it really has been super valuable to our relationship. Like,
same here.
Like, yeah, it's so amazing. Like, literally just this morning, like almost every day there's some point where we text each other. And what my favorite part of it is, that moment where you're like thinking about your partner and you just like feel this wave of love. Mm-hmm. Well, texting gives you the opportunity to act on it, right? So I will just send him an emoji. Like, it doesn't even matter, but it gives me an opportunity to act on it. Whereas in the past, like, you might wait for him to come home, but by then you're cooking dinner and there's 5 kids in the house, and like whatever it is, you don't have that moment. It's past. So you can be like, hey, I thought about you this morning, but now I'm just stressed out. So it's one of my favorite things about technology is being able to communicate those moments when they happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And texting is so non-intrusive too. So it doesn't even matter what your partner's doing. It's just going to like bing, and then they can look at it when they want to. It's not like you have to make a phone call to let them know you're thinking about them and like interrupt their day. And that's so true for me. Even after all this time, he will send me a text from work. Good morning, honey. I love you. Have a great day. And if we're not together, it's every day that we just be present in each other's lives in these like super simple ways, even if we're not together. So I love that one. It's not trivial or weird at all to me. It's one of the things we do too.
Yep. Super, super good stuff.
So I have one.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have one. So one of the things that I try to be super conscious of is showing an interest in what is important to him. Because my husband is super introverted. And while he doesn't behave as an introvert necessarily all the time with me, like we're on a different level than that, he doesn't seem uncomfortable or anything like that. But he is not necessarily one to volunteer what he's feeling. Like, his question is, not telling me about how he slept. He asks me, how did you sleep? Did you have any dreams? What did you dream about? And often like questions that allow me to speak. So when he does mention something, he's very creative, and sometimes he'll say, oh, I had this idea for a children's book that I thought would be awesome. And it's like, I could say, oh, that's cool. Or I could say like, oh, what was it? Tell me about it.
Yeah.
And often like he won't volunteer anything else if I just say, oh, that's cool. Like, right. and something that's kind of dismissive, like, hey, I heard you, but I don't really care what the idea was. And I do care. I'm just, my brain is always going, like so many miles an hour that it's hard if I'm not being intentional in that moment to be like, oh, here's an opportunity to let him take up some space in this relationship.
Yeah.
So I try to be super conscious of when that happens, like, let him take up the space, because he doesn't ever demand the space. So it's like I have to make sure that he has those moments.
That's beautiful. Good job. Go, Tara.
Thank you. Woo, and that might not be an issue for everyone, because he is so reserved and it does feel often
No,
imbalanced.
that totally resonates with me in my marriage for sure.
Oh,
Because
okay, cool.
I'm the one who's like out there in it, tell it all, talk about it
Yeah,
all, and
working on a million things and goals and
yeah,
dreams, and very open with our visions. And
yeah, and I absolutely, I hear you 100% on that. So good
okay,
one.
awesome, cool.
I'm gonna bring up taking taking some act on physical attraction. So like noting that looks really cute on you, or you're looking mighty fine for a 40-year-old man, like just
Yeah,
because
I'm one lucky woman.
yeah, like that stuff, you forget how important and how good it feels, right? And so I try to consciously take that moment and really tap into that physical attraction and make it seen or noted in some way, either spoken or showed. My little guy's bringing me mail. Thank you very much, buddy. So yeah, that one's really important to me. Does that happen in your relationship?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's not something that it's similar that I need to be conscious of taking those moments to say so. And we're like really homebodies, so we don't even go out that much. So we're not all gussied up most of the time, and we see each other all the time because we have worked together for most of our relationship. It's actually just recently that David took a full-time job outside of the home, and we're entering a phase of life that is going to be so much more separate than we've ever been ever since we met. So it's gonna be an interesting new normal of like, where do I find the time to really make these moments count? But yeah, absolutely. I think making
it's
him
just
feel
like,
desirable by me is
yeah,
huge. It's huge. I know that I take note of it when he says to me like, "Oh gosh, you're so adorable,"
yeah,
or even like just the simple little things that make me feel wanted by him.
yeah.
That this is not just a routine for us. This relationship is not just a routine. It's because we choose this actively every moment because we love and want each other.
Yeah. And I think there are some like really like when you have an emotional connection with someone that's very strong and long standing, like there's all this unspoken territory that's just a given and super comforting and foundational. And this physical piece it's not it actually needs to be said and noted in a different way
Mm-hmm.
than we do say I love you a lot, but didn't in my family growing up. It was just like a known, and we all felt it. Like there was no question about feeling it. And so I think that's really different than this physical piece where like you actually have to take that extra step because he's not going to know I'm thinking he looks hot.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it probably even feels weird for him to assume that you do.
Yeah. So
Like, oh, she must think I'm fine.
I think that's important to bring that. Oh, nice. We have some toy action. Well, you can't win them all.
Live it up, Isaac. Live it up. Yeah, I think that's so true. But and also speaking to the idea of saying I love you and sort of speaking those things that should be foundational.
Yeah.
It was very common for me to hear it in my household. My mother's very affectionate. She's very verbal. But David's family wasn't.
Yeah.
Like they didn't, and they didn't feel approved of all the time, and they didn't feel validated, and they didn't share affection that way.
Feel it or say it.
Exactly. From either perspective. So
yeah,
I've spent most of our relationship because we were not as young as you guys. I know you guys were like high school sweethearts, right?
Oh, we sure were.
Yeah. So it feels like we were close because we were both like, I think 22 when we met. But yeah, I feel like I've spent a lot of our relationship, trying to be that validation for him, but I do need to say it. Like it can't be assumed by him, because it never was. Like, just they didn't say it, and I don't know whether or not they felt it, and he doesn't know either. So I definitely don't want him to have that perception of our relationship of always like wondering. So I do tell him all the time, and he's he's become extremely forthright with his affection as well. And like we do say, I love you probably to a disgusting amount to some people, but I'm not of the mind that there's ever too much of that going around, you know?
Have you both taken the 5 love language? Like, have you
Neither
tapped into
one of us,
that?
you know, like of all the books that I've ever read, that's not one that I have read yet.
Yeah, I haven't read it either. I've
I
taken
mean,
the
I know the
basic
concept.
one.
Yeah, I know the premise of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and not actually someone brought that up to me this morning for some reason, so maybe it's present on my mind. And I did take the quiz actually fairly recently. But I think that's an important thing to note, like in any partnership. Like, how does this person hear and receive my love? Because it might
Oh
be
God,
different
great
than the
point.
way I give it.
Yeah,
You know?
great point.
So that
That
is,
feeds into our theme of making them feel important is not,
yeah,
you know, not loving them in the
exactly.
way that satisfies us, but
Yeah.
loving them in the way that satisfies them. That's a superb point. Thanks for
Yeah,
bringing that up.
because like you might be someone who really needs words of affirmation and you need to
Mm-hmm.
hear it. And then your partner is someone who just like needs like physical tokens, like a
Mm-hmm.
flower, a
Yeah.
note, a special rock, like whatever it is. And unless you know that about them, it can be hard to meet their love language. And so I think those things are so important to see and recognize, because particularly like the gift one, if you're not someone who responds to gifts, you can think
Mm-hmm.
it's silly or materialistic or like,
Or shallow or
yeah,
whatever.
but it's not. There's so much meaning behind that. And so to understand your
Mm-hmm.
partner's love language and then speak to them in that way is
Yeah.
really powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, kids too, because I was
Yes.
surprised to learn that Aria, my daughter, she is the physical gift love language. So she's constantly
Right.
bringing me little weeds from the garden saying, I
Right.
have something for you. I love you. It's this little dandelion leaf, you
Yeah.
know? And to her, it's something so precious.
Right.
And then I forget, like, I feel like, oh, I don't want to spoil you by showering you with things all the time. And it doesn't have to be anything. Like, it can literally be like, I have a present for you. It's this curly hair that fell out of my head. Here you go. I love you so much. And she's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's so precious, you
Or
know?
I made you this beautiful lunch. Well, you were going to make lunch
Exactly.
anyway. But if you
Yep.
know your kid responds
This
that way,
is
you
for
can
you.
present it as, I made you this beautiful lunch. And they're like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm
Oh my God,
so
thank
lucky.
you.
My mama made me a beautiful
Mhm. She
lunch.
loves me so much. Yeah.
Yeah. So we
But
will definitely link to that.
yeah, and that makes me feel like I should probably take that quiz with him and find out what his is. I mean, I have some inklings and we have discovered ways of really validating that for each other, but it would be good to have some concrete affirmations on that.
Yeah. I
Cool.
have one
Thanks for
more
bringing that up.
thing before we wrap. One
Yeah.
more quick thing. Feng Shui is a really big part of my life, a
Mm-hmm.
really big part of my co-coaching practice. And bringing some attention to the love areas of our home is super important for me. And then also, if you don't get into the whole feng shui, figuring that out, just like bringing some love and an energy and attention to your bedroom, like making the bed, putting a couple throw pillows on it, doing that as like an act of appreciation and love for your relationship, is like when I work in the love area or specifically in my bedroom with intention, like he'll come home just showering me with love. He doesn't even know I did.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're feeling stuck on ways to love and appreciate your partner, just Google some like feng shui for love, feng shui for relationships, feng shui for marriage, and dig into a couple tips because they're so powerful. So powerful.
Man, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. You know how you guys did the you and Jen
Yep.
Heilman
Yep.
actually did the like feng shui for your entryway
Yeah.
this past spring?
Yep.
It would be very cool if you did one for that, like
Just
feng
did
shui
a
for your
blog post.
bedroom. A
Yeah,
love
she just,
post?
yep, exactly. She just did a blog post, so I will link to that.
Awesome. Yeah, let's link to that too. I'd
Yeah.
be very interested in reading it. I'm also fascinated by the science and art of feng shui.
Cool, cool.
Awesome. So what are our asks today?
Um, I was just gonna ask for more patience as my son how amazing that a 4-year-old will even let me record a blog podcast.
Way to go, Isaac. Thank you.
I'm gonna just stick that in gratitude and ask myself to be extra patient.
Cool. I am actually going to ask for people to visit my Instagram and like me at My All in Life, and then post a picture and tag the hashtag My All in Life with a selfie of you and your partner. Because I want to see all you awesome listeners with your loved ones. Please do that for me so that we can share in the happiness of being partnered and how awesome it is.
Good. Love it.
Okay. All right. Till next time.